The loops. The loops are these things.
Hey guys, so
They need to be returned to base, so they need to go back to base by the robot only. So the robot needs to go out and collect up the loops and bring them back to base. Unfortunately, that in and of itself isn't complicated enough for you guys. This one's really confusing. I'll read it over and then I'll try to explain it. So the basic condition is the loops need to be back in base. The bonus part of it, so the complexity of it, new technologies can sometimes eliminate your need to travel. They are hard to develop, but each new one makes the next come easier. If all three gray loops have reached base, you may take one red loop to base by hand. So if they make the robot come out here and get this fella, and that fella, and get it back to base, then they could come out, or they could ask you by hand to take a red one and bring it back to base by hand. Generally, you're not allowed to grab anything by hand out here on the table. The robot has to do the work. But they can pick a red one to come back to base if they get the three grays. And they can tell you which one they want. It could be this one, that one over there. I think that's all the red ones. Now there's a little bit more to it. Independent of that, if all three red loops have reached base, you may take one loop of any color into base by hand. So if they somehow get all of the red ones into base, then they can say, I want to take this one back to base by hand, or this one. They can do that.
Are all the same loops, or the same number of points?
They're all worth 10 points back in base. So that one's kind of confusing. So let me go over one more time. If they somehow manage to get all three gray loops back to base by the computer, by the robot, then they can tell you, I would like to have one of these red loops brought back to base by hand, and they can pick whatever one they want. Now if they end up with all three reds back in base, one of them could be the freebie that they got with the grays. It could be, it doesn't have to be though. Just somehow the three reds get back to base. Then they can grab one of any color, this one or any of those, or I guess these, or the blue one there. They can bring back to base by hand. So that one's going to be kind of confusing. We'll go over that again on the day of the real tournament. Once they're on these hand freedoms, which are a special exception to the rules, may be used any time before the match ends. So they should do these before the 2.5-minute buzzer goes off. You shouldn't really do these after the match ends. So at the end of the match, if they have like the three gray ones back there, they shouldn't really be coming out to grab a red one. It should be something that happens during the execution of the match. I would recommend that you give them a little leniency on that, and one, help them out, and two, if they do go to the end of the match, let them do it. That just doesn't seem like one that's going to be worth beating them up on. Avoid impacts, warning beacons. Required conditions. Warning beacons need to be upright, square to the mat. Now that one's kind of interesting. Who can tell me where the warning beacons are? What do they look? Point to them on the mat. All right, these guys. So they need to be square to the mat. They do not. It doesn't say they need to be on the black mat. It also doesn't say that they need to be touching the mat. So that maybe like that. Or maybe they develop some gizmo to suck them back to base, have the robot come out, and they need to get those ones out of their way because of other missions. Because if they're knocked down, they're not square to the mat, and they will lose points. These out here, they'll probably just leave alone and just get the points for them sitting there. But those over there, the robot will probably run into and knock them down. So they might develop a mission to bring those things back to base, and they might knock them down going back to base, and that's fine. and then they may put them in some sort of gizmo and then just push them out of base. So they might be up on top of some little Lego thing that they push back out at the end. They would still be square to the mat because they don't have to be touching it, and on the mat, so you would still count them. The warning beacons also are used as the touch penalty this year. So if the robot goes out, it goes haywire, and for whatever reason, under its own power, it does not make it back to base, you take one of these off the mat. So they lose the points, the 10 points that they would have achieved. So that gets the touch penalty. So as they're running the robot, if they need to go rescue the robot and bring it back to base, these are the touch penalties. So they would lose 10 points for those.
Each time.
Every single time. The beacons are removed in order from south to north, then from west to east. If there are no upright beacons, then there is no touch penalty. So let's look at that. So from south to north, where's south? Okay, so we're going to start over here, and we're going to move to the north, and we're going to start from the west. Which side's the west? From the west, and move to the east. So we'll start over there and move up this way for the touch penalty. Does that make sense to everybody? Which ones to take off? And go ahead.
All of them went down at one point, and the robot went out of base.
Correct. They're allowed to knock it down during the match, pull it back to base, and somehow, once it's in base, they could pick it up by hand and have the robot push it back out of base, and it would count. So it's okay if it falls down during the match. And when you're collecting a touch penalty, you don't pick up the ones that are already down. You pick up the scoring ones, so the ones that are perpendicular to the back. Now, there's one more detail on those things when we get to the truck that we'll talk about in a minute. The sensor walls. Who can tell me where the sensor walls are? Good. Where are the sensor walls? So there are these things here. So how many sensor walls do we have? 5, that's right. Everybody see 5 sensor walls on each table? Okay, the required condition. Sensor walls need to be upright and square to the mat. So square to the mat is like this. That one is not square to the mat. Any 4 walls count, up to 4. Each of these being upright only counts if there is one of these knocked down. So if they leave all of these up, and they leave all of these up, they end up not getting any points. If they leave these up, knock these down, then they get full points. They get 40 points. They're 10 points each. The other option with these same walls is to knock them down. And for that, they get either 40 points or no points. And the required condition is that no, as in 0, sensor walls are upright. So they have to knock down all of these. If even one is left up, they get 0 points for it. That one does not count. So if it was this condition, and one was left up, and 3 of these were knocked down, how would that score out? Who can tell me how that would work? Go ahead. 0.
You'd only get points for the beacons, or the access points.
They would get points for that, but they also would still have one of these up, so this one would count. So they wouldn't get the 40 points for knocking them all down, but for the sensor avoidance, it's 10 points each. So for each one that's up and has at least one of these down, they get points for it. Luckily, the scoring part of this will make that easier. You don't necessarily need to understand that, but I think it's good to know.